going home. He's going home. Welcome to the Space Ranger Stone podcast.
Welcome, listeners.
Here today with my...
Sorry, I didn't realize we were going to start so abruptly. You caught me off guard.
I was kind of leading you into it. Just wanted to give our listeners a friendly little reminder that you can email us at spacerangerstone@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or concerns. Holy shit, this audio delay is fucking me up. I do not know why this is...
Okay. Oh, perfect. This means we can restart.
Okay, no. I just figured out what was doing it. It's because I have a compressor and an adaptive limiter in the master bus.
I expected that would be the problem.
I knew it. Yeah, everybody always thinks it's that, and then it always is.
Yep.
Okay, spacerangerstone@gmail.com. Go ahead and email us there for any questions you have about the podcast. I'm going to take a look. Nothing. We've gotten nothing from anybody. That's heartbreaking. But I will tell you some exciting news. If anybody is still listening on SoundCloud, we are on Spotify. We are on YouTube. We are everywhere you get your podcasts as long as it's Spotify or YouTube. And I'm going to stop uploading it to SoundCloud after this episode. So that's exciting.
That is pretty exciting. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you should listen on YouTube instead, because Luke's made a really cool little intro thing.
Adam.
Very nicely drawn, by the way.
Thank you.
I don't like that you made it moving, though, because I was forced to sit through and watch the entire podcast just to see if something would change.
Yeah, there is something in 47 minutes that changes.
Yeah. No, don't tell them what time it is. You have to bleep that out. You have to make sure they watch the whole thing. But overall, very, very well done. You're quite the artist.
Thank you. Okay, so a couple things about that. So if you haven't opened the YouTube link yet, I made an idle animation of me sitting in a ship. I made the air freshener move. I made the lights turning on and off. I put a couple shooting stars in the background. I made the space move around behind them. You know, some great stuff there. I even put in the animated title, and I put the subject of the pod into the monitor. I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot.
And I noticed when I slowed it down by down to 25%, there's copper in your skin that flashes really quickly.
Yes.
And that you can't normally tell, but I did notice that was a nice little touch.
I'm glad you caught that. That was really important. No, but that's you say I'm good at drawing. I drew nothing in that. Like there is.
I know that obviously, but I was giving you some clout.
Right. Well, I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, just to tell our viewers, I literally drew nothing. Everything was traced, including everything on the right side, all the cables and the input stuff. And the little piano, the Op1, I put a TT-78 drum machine in there. Literally didn't draw any of it, just traced all off the photos. But even that, it's that's art. What are you gonna tell me is cheating, right?
That's what all the best artists do. A little secret.
I mean, honestly, it's I know, but also, how much of it are you gonna say is cheating? When I look on Instagram, there are so many pieces that you can just tell are traced or virtually directly copied from reference. But it's that's art, you know? What are you going to say is or isn't art? I don't know.
I think it looks fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And getting it on Spotify is a big load off the mind. I feel happy with that because now it's when people hear you have a SoundCloud, they're like, gross. But when people hear you have a Spotify, that's official. Also, still getting the audio delay. I'm just going to turn off my input monitoring. So as long as you can hear me, I'm just going to trust that there's noise coming through here. All right.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I'm feeling okay. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, my life's been going pretty fun. Been frothing a lot. I thought you were gonna rail me way harder for not showing up to the last podcast. Actually, I did listen to the last one.
Yeah.
Very good stuff. Thank you very much to all of our guests that came on for that. Very entertaining.
Okay, I want to start a pledge.
I
want to start a pledge right now. Every person who listens to this show will eventually be featured as a guest.
Yes. Not only that, if you come onto our show as a guest, you get 100% of all the revenue made for that episode.
Very true.
All of it.
Yes, we won't keep any of it.
We won't keep a single penny. No, I just feel like I wasn't getting enough credit for the last one because you guys were making fun of me because I went on a date with this. I went on a couple of dates with this girl, and I'm actually surprised you guys didn't rail on me harder. But it's all for content for this podcast.
Oh.
So I feel like the fact that you guys were even, making digs at me in the first place was a little bit unfounded because I'm doing it all for this.
Holy shit, I just got it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so, obviously the whole bit isn't ready yet, so I don't want to go too much into this elaborate gaslighting.
Will you pledge right now that you're going to break up with her on the pod?
Oh, man. That would be a really, really fruity bit. You know what? I will see what I can do.
All right.
I can't promise anything, though, because she doesn't exist. But if I can make it happen, I will.
That's huge.
I just had a tiny story. It's a one sentence long story, but for some reason it was really funny
Baby
to me.
shoes.
I was walking
never worn.
I was walking. Yeah. I was walking the dog yesterday, and there's like this dude staring at this guy's dog in his yard, and he was like kind of smiling and waving at the dog. And the dog's tied to a leash, and the dog's like just standing there barking. I'm really stretching out this story because I said it was going to be one sentence long, and it really only is. But now I've already made it 3 sentences long. But he's standing there like waving at the dog, and the dude comes out and is like, "Stop smiling at my dog!"
What?
got super aggressive and like walked over to the fence line. And I think the other guy was like autistic or something, just because like who just does that? So like I felt kind of bad for him because I think he's just like an autistic dude who like found a dog that he thought was cute. But the guy came out and just started yelling at him and telling him off and telling him to leave his dog alone. He's like, "Leave my dog alone!" and like told him to like F off.
Holy shit.
So I thought that was amusing. I have nothing to say about that. I don't have any insight on that story, but I thought it was funny that it happened.
That is fucking hysterical.
I kept my eyes to the ground when I walked by.
I would have stared at the dog for like 30 minutes, but you do you.
Yeah.
So I'm eating soft-boiled eggs right now. I just bit into one. It exploded all over my pants and my seat. That means, Adam, you gotta entertain the crowd for like a minute while I go get a paper towel. Or if you don't say anything entertaining, I'll just edit it out. But
okay.
But
all right, you gotta do that.
Best.
Yeah, I got something. See, this is what Lucas does. For all of our listeners out there, I was listening to the last pod, and Lucas Stone. First of all, Spencer corrected him for not calling him Stone, but his name is Lucas Stone. So calling him Lucas is fine because that's just his first name. His last name is Stone Spencer. Surprised Lucas didn't catch that when it's his actual name and he didn't correct Spencer on that. But anyway, but Lucas puts people on the spot. I could tell Lucas was thinking of a funny joke for a line, and then he tells Spencer and Jack, he's like, "All right, if I say this, what would be a really funny follow-up line?" And then Jack and Spencer like try to come up with lines on the spot, and then Lucas says his line that he's been thinking of for half an hour and immediately appears to be the funny one. But this man's a complete fraud. It's all prepared beforehand. Puts our beautiful guests on the spot just to make them feel stupid. It's messed up. Don't like that. We will be removing Lucas from the show. I'm going to do a coup. I'm bringing Spencer and Jack back on, and Grant, of course. And we're going to do the Lucas Stone podcast without him, I think.
What's up?
Perfect timing.
Thank you. I do as I do.
All right, that's enough talking about black people. I think I had some stuff of
fuck, man.
For
There's
lack
so
of
much egg, and I can't get it out.
That is the tricky thing about egg.
I can't get out.
It's it's a little tough. It can be a little tough.
Listeners, if you have any advice on how to get egg out of office chair, and this is like soft office chair. This isn't no leather office chair. So if you have any advice, give me an email.
Or if you have advice on getting tomato stains out of couches, because I brought Spencer over when we were both we walked home from the bar, and Spencer said, let's eat some meat sauce on my mom's brand new expensive couch. And I said, that sounds like a good idea.
You said, Spencer, what, Mom? What are you talking about?
And then he literally ate nothing and just threw it all on the couch like a fucking ape. Like, just like complete, absolute mongoloid, just like as a bit. I think part of his drunk brain thought it'd be funny to destroy my life and just smear meat sauce all over the couch. But I went through 8 different cleaners, and it took me 3 days, and I think I've gotten to a pretty good point. But we will see. We will see when the mom gets back, whether I survive.
Well, those first 2 eggs made a bit of a mess, but I'm going for number 3.
For lack of real content, which I do have some real content coming up, but I felt like since I was listening to the pod, I might as well talk about some of the stuff that was in the pod, just to soothe myself and make me feel like I was actually there, you know? I felt a little bit left out, so I was just gonna bring up like 2 or 3 things that you guys said on there. If that's cool with you, Lucas, of course.
No.
Alright, I'm gonna do it anyway, though. So, Lucas, you brought up that Go has infinite moves, which I've heard this before.
I did not, okay, as an exaggeration.
Somebody did. Okay, well, no, I know, it's obvious, nothing's infinite, but there is more moves in Go than there is atoms in the universe.
Yes.
So they say, but it's like, that's like very misleading, I feel like, you know, like there's never going to be, you could do a soccer game, you know, 100,000 soccer games a day for like the next 800 million years, and a soccer game's not going to repeat itself either, you know what I mean? You're not going to have the same exact...
the difference is that Go is turn-based.
The difference is that Go has like variables that are, you know, like determined, like there's actually more of a, I mean, if you want to put it into like that sense, but even then it's like, think about poker, you know what I mean? Poker, there's like a set amount of cards, and if you're like only looking at it from the perspective of the cards, but each card is like, if you have 2 people at a table, they can each have 52 to like 2 cards combinations that they could be holding in their hands, or whatever the fuck it is. There's like 5 cards on the table. That could be any number of fucking cards, you know? Multiply that times 8 people, and then say they did like 10 turns. It's like, okay, now there's 50 million more moves than there is in Go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like that's any game. Any game that you can have like just something where you put to the power of something like a card deck with 52 freaking cards. You're going to have like a nearly infinite amount. Like a Rubik's Cube has like, what, 10 billion trillion combinations or something?
Right. I think the reason that people say it, though, is because it's kind of like a way to introduce somebody to Go, because the rules of Go seem so rudimentary. You have all these pieces that all have the same value and ability, and you can only move them one space at a time each. So it's like, it seems like such a simple game, which is why people have to like demonstrate that actually every game you play of it is profoundly different. Because like poker or soccer, it's like very obvious that every game's going to be different.
Well, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I looked up the rules to Go, and I think part of it is just because, like, you have to think about, like, actual practical rules. You don't have, like, an infinite amount of games that are going to occur, because nobody's going to do the retarded moves, which is the vast majority of what that makes up. But on top of that, I'm pretty sure what they're talking about when talking about Go is that there's no, like, limit. Like, chess has an infinite number of rules if you can have 2 kings running around the board. But the reason it doesn't is because after 50 turns of no pieces getting taken, the game just ends. Like, there's just a rule that says, okay, you can only go 50 turns without pieces being taken.
Right.
I feel like if Go had that kind of rule, suddenly we're talking, a fraction of the possibilities. I feel like when you're talking about that number, you're talking about the dude keeps putting down a black space, and then the other dude keeps putting down a white space, and then they go in circles for like 10 million years.
I think.
You know what I'm saying?
You're definitely striking on something accurate, like about why people say that. Like, it's kind of a dumb thing to say. It's true.
Now I feel like a lot of the
bit
games
of a
probably
dipshit for saying
aren't.
it. Honestly.
Yeah, well, I think the point is that you are.
Have you ever
so
seen?
I wanted to bring that up.
Have you ever seen there's like a Vsauce video that's there's like a Vsauce video that's talking about music, and he's like, well, this is actually the number of different possible tracks you could make in 5 minutes on a 64-bit track, and it's like the same number. It's like some insane, crazy, huge number, which describes like, okay, there's one 5-minute track where a guy says hello at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Then there's another 5-minute track where he says it at 2 minutes and 30.1 seconds. And then there's another one where he says it at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but it's slightly deeper. Then there's one where he says it twice, right? Like, it's like that figure doesn't even mean anything, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm retarded. I agree. You struck something there.
I just wanted to put that out there for the listeners so they know how stupid you are.
I feel like an idiot for buying into the liberal media propaganda. And you know why it is? It's because I watched a Go documentary about that.
It's the
AI, the most famous Go AI. Because people were like, oh, it's going to be 30 years at least until a Go bot beats a world champion Go player. In like 2018, they were saying that, and then they fucking built this thing and, schlopped that guy. They actually didn't schlop him, which is even the crazier part. The GoBot won 3 games against him, and then he won like the next 2.
That's pretty impressive.
That's like, you'd expect either it's still way behind or it's like light years ahead, but you wouldn't expect like it's on par with, a human player. I think I said this to you the other day, but I think chess and perhaps Go, although that's Chinese, so I'm not really going to address it. But I think chess is like one of those things that perfectly highlights how insane the human brain can get. Because of what you're talking about, like, super smart people being able to beat bots. But you listen or watch these chess players. I've been watching a lot of like grandmasters play chess. It's funny because it's actually become like a live streaming thing. Like, they're on Twitch. Like the greatest chess, all of the greatest chess players. That's how they make their money now. Because that's pretty much where you make. That's where anyone like that with those kind of jobs has to make their money now. But these people like memorize every game. Like, you can ask these people about games that they played when they were like 12 or 11, and they will have memorized the exact move order of all of those games. Like, they can recall like tournaments that they did when they were like 7 years old, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember I was playing against this like other grandmaster when I was 7. And I played B6, and then he played, E2 or whatever. And it's like, it is absolutely insane that the human brain can actually get to that point. That's great.
The autistic mind is absolutely gorgeous in that sense. I had something else I wanted to say about that, too.
Autistic people? Go?
Yeah, I had like a little autistic rant. A little chess rant about something.
I hate the autistic people.
Anyway.
No, that's cap. I love autistic people.
I was going to bring up one more thing, too. They talked about the podcast, because you guys were saying that humans come from monkeys. And
I said
kind of like
specifically that I know that's not how it works.
That humans don't come from monkeys?
Yeah, I know that's the theory is not that they came from monkeys.
Right. I don't know. To me, that entire thing, maybe the listener will agree, but it's sort of like, I don't really care what you believe. I have a lot of friends who are young Earth theorists. I have a lot of friends that are young Earth theorists, but
you're hanging out with the retarded class of people.
Yeah, well, that is.
You're hanging out with base people, bro. Come on.
But it's sort of like, like a nut to like a full oak tree. Like there could be, you can like say that, you're going from, it started as this and then it eventually became this, but at some point in between those two phases you have something that's like really transformative, and when you're at one stage it's not even remotely comparable to the previous stage. Like you can say a nut comes from a tree, and in that way they're somewhat similar, but a nut is not in the same classification as a full oak tree. You know what I mean?
Very true.
Does that make sense? Like a monkey is so absurdly below, and a monkey being the closest thing to a human, but a monkey is so absurdly far away from the realm of human consciousness that it doesn't make a lot of sense to compare the two, other than to say that maybe the tree eventually becomes the nut, but they're not similar. Like the consciousness is that beautiful thing. The consciousness is those roots and those leaves that are on the oak tree that completely distinguish it from anything else at all. Like there's no, like a monkey doesn't have like an actual form of language, like all these animals that we kind of like say, oh, like dogs are so cute and stuff, but a dog doesn't have any type of language. A dog can understand like 8 words or something like that. Like that's not language. That's not a conveyance of ideas. There's no consciousness in a dog other than what you would, categorize as like, the very most base level. Like, yeah, this thing is like a highly evolved rat in a way. But there's not anything that really ties it together. It's not something that you can... You gotta stop dropping the eggs, dude. But there's not anything you can really tie together between a human and a dog. And I think that is one thing that's important when I'm talking. Because I asked this question to a couple of people, and I was like, what is, what to you, like, what is better, like a human or a dog? Which seems like a really stupid question.
Yeah.
Or I said and they're, oh, a dog, because a dog doesn't want to do anything. Dog never does anything bad. Humans can be bad. A dog can't be bad. But it's like just a retarded point of view, because a dog doesn't actually have free will, doesn't have a consciousness, doesn't have a notion of bad, and therefore is incapable of, to me, a dog is like, obviously it's more important than like another tool. I'd rather have a dog than a hammer. But a dog doesn't even come close to encompassing the love that another human can bring to your life. A dog doesn't love you because it accepts you for your flaws, because it actually encompasses and thinks about you in your totality.
I gotta wash my hands.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. You're doing great.
I was already ranting, and now you're forcing me to rant alone, which is already what I was doing. But I guess I'll continue, and make some of my dog-loving listeners upset. But a dog doesn't love you for your flaws. It doesn't have a concept of who you are as a person. It loves you because over 10 million years it is genetically made to love humans. That's why they look like not wolves anymore. That's why they look like little playthings, little teddy bears. It's because their entire purpose and their genetic inclination is just like, something gives me food, I'm gonna love that thing, And obviously you can raise a dog incorrectly. And then again, it's just like a complete product of its environment. A dog raised incorrectly is just going to be a bad dog, but a dog raised the way that you want it to be raised, and like in a good way, is just going to fulfill that purpose, like a tool would almost. Obviously, like I said, I do like dogs. I think dogs are cool. I think it's nice when a dog does something good for a human, but it's not a reflection of its free will. It's just a reflection of its environment. It doesn't actually care about you in the way that another person care about you. So when people say like, "Oh yeah, I'd much rather hang out with dogs than humans," it's like,
God,
yeah, okay,
how long
so
are you to fucking talk about this, bro? I've been gone for like 6 minutes.
I was not gonna keep talking about it, but then you said I had to entertain the viewers.
Right, listen, I would say you're saying something very true. I think the ultimate way to distinguish is that humans have a lower will and a higher will, which is what I was just talking about to you about earlier.
Yeah.
No, there is no animal that has a lower will and a higher will, right? And that's how we describe consciousness. Is you have a deep thing that you want to do and a higher intuition that tells you not to do it, which no animal possesses that thing. right?
Yes, I agree.
I mean, that's just, yeah, like, I don't know if I think you put it very well with the tree and the leaves. I don't know if I harped on that enough, but yeah, I don't see us as similar or anything to monkeys. And I don't mean to like blur the line. Like, yeah, I do think we're like, obviously, we're a completely distinct creature. Nature is autonomous. People are not. Like, people have what we would call like real experience. But I think, yeah, you're watching all these like Disney movies and Pixar movies, like the Super Pets or whatever that new fucking movie is. It's just crazy that we've all grown up on these movies that personify animals, and they present animals as human things, and now we've like adapted it as a mental illness that we see so much human emotion and human motivation in our animals just because we've seen movies like that. Like, when you watch The Lion King, that's not a story about like a baby lion and his dad lion. It's like, no, that's obviously the story of a powerful king and the son of the king and how he's going to get back at an assassin who killed the father of the king, right? It's a human story. All human stories are human, because you can't tell a story that's purely intuitive. It wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's really a problem of conflation, where we are, what you said, giving human traits to animals, because an animal doesn't do the same thing. You know, a human's willing to like run into a fire to save a dog. Dog's not willing to run into a fire to save, like, you know, a rat. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like we just have associated the two things way too deeply.
Right. I mean, a dog's not even willing to run into a fire to save another dog.
Yeah.
Unless they're trained to do that by humans, which, again, they're not doing it based off of a higher will. They're doing it based off of a trained intuition. Just before we get off the topic of monkeys, you remember the Powerade drinking video, or Powerade monkey drinking video?
Yeah.
I saw some guy do that in the gym, and I guarantee he was making reference. There's no way you could do it as accurate. And I was the only other one in the locker room. And he like saw me walking up, and then he pulled out his water, and he held his left fist up in the air, and he like waterfalled it. And I was like, I didn't say anything, which is I don't know why. I feel very vulnerable in the locker room, and I just gotten out of the shower.
Maybe you should just explain the video to the people who haven't seen it.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So there's a video of a monkey drinking Powerade. And it's filmed from above the monkey, so you're looking down at the monkey. You should really look this up, because you're missing out if you haven't seen it. But it's a video of you looking down at this monkey, and they start pouring Powerade into this monkey's mouth. And the monkey holds his left fist up, and it gets right close to the camera. You kind of get that perspective thing where the fist looks huge. And his whole mouth is filling up with Powerade, and you see his open mouth contort into a smile, like an open mouth smile, as the Powerade's pouring in, and just so much emotion is shared through that video. And this guy was doing that in the gym just for me. I was the only audience, and I didn't even say anything. I felt so bad. Like, because looking back, like, I was at the time, I was like, what the fuck's this guy doing? And then I kind of realized it right after he finished. And looking back, I was like, there's no way he wasn't referencing that video. Like, he did it exactly like the video. Anyway, just good to know there's other player characters. I feel bad for not mentioning to him that I realized he was a player character.
Yeah, you should have said that. I think I did this whole segment just to be controversial. So listeners, do not write in to tell me that your dog has a soul.
Yeah, it's
because it will not change. It will not change my mind, even though it was all satire.
Was it?
What?
Was it?
Well, I have to say that so they don't write in.
Oh. Go kill politicians in Tetris. I love that's my favorite line. Is like go out, find prominent politicians of your opposition party, and kill them in Tetris, because it's just like
yeah. Northman review?
I don't. Yeah. Okay, how long has this pod been going so far? Let's see.
30 minutes already.
Oh my god. And half of that I was gone, cleaning egg or washing hand.
Yeah. And most of that I was incoherently rambling about some schizo
Before
dog
we get into
theory.
the Northman, I gotta confess something to you, Adam.
Mm.
I have, just an hour before the pod, I have purchased my first nicotine device of the year. Hopefully my last, but yeah.
That sucks, but I have something to confess to you too. This entire pod I've been ripping the nicotine because I quitting.
Oh boy.
We are absolute fiends.
We are fiends. I think the thing is... Oh my god, I'm getting a fucking phone call from Grant. And it's the
Hey,
loudest...
while you leave, I'll take care of it.
What?
I'll take care of the podcast when you leave to take this phone call.
No.
This is... You didn't catch it, but we are going to do a cue that kind of removes you from the podcast. And you're actually really helping facilitate that by leaving the entire thing up to me.
That's good. I just hit in with the doing pod with Adam. I think, you know how... Alright, so I don't know if I've gone on this rant on this pod yet, or if I've even told this rant to you, but I had a rant about the spiritual journey that every man goes on throughout the course of a single day. And then there's like a different spiritual journey that men go on in the course of a year, because obviously there's different feelings associated with each season. But I will say, I think when summer comes, it's where you just want to let loose. You know, it's every part of you just wants to let loose. And who are we to fight it?
It's like Spencer said, it's schizo summer.
It's schizo summer. It's white boy summer. 2, 3.
We are done. Just as Spencer said, we're done taking our meds. We are now about to show our true selves. This is the full realization of the ego.
That was
really
really
going to be a really
Spencer,
spiritual thing.
That was funny. I like that. I really appreciate you doing that. I wish there was somebody who down here who would do open mics with me, because that was funny and I enjoyed it.
Did you watch it? Did he send you a recording?
Grant sent a recording in the group chat.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Good stuff. Do you want to do the Northman review?
More like the Southman.
Yeah, that's really good content, I think.
I am down. I watched it last Monday at work.
You seem so hesitant.
Well,
Do you not want to talk about this movie?
Yeah. No, I do want to talk about it. I just feel bad now because Grant's calling and texting me, and he just said damn when I said that. I was doing a pod with Adam.
Well...
And I know he wanted to do the Northman review, but fuck him, dude. That's what I say about that.
Well, Grant can come in and give his take, and
we'll shut him
when
down
we do the next pod.
I think, okay, so just to start it off, Northman review, if you haven't watched it, either don't watch it or click off now, because I'm going to give a quick plot review of the movie, if you're cool with that, Adam.
Yeah, go for it.
So, starts off with this kid and his son, or the kid and his dad, and the dad returns from one of his Viking excursions, and the kid's celebrating. The kid's dad is the king of his region, his province, and they're celebrating. And then the dad goes through a coming-of-age ritual, a Bildungsroman, if you will, if you remember Mr. Reese's class. And he goes through a coming-of-age ritual with his son, and the next day he's slaughtered by an incumbent who is his brother. And the kid sees all this happen. He escapes the island, and he vows to kill his dad's brother for doing that. He lives for a few years as a Viking. He gets taken in by another Viking tribe. He just fucking slaughters, rapes, lives the good life on Jaw. He finds out where his father's murderer, his uncle, is, and he gets on a boat, pretends to be a slave so he can go to that guy's farm. He then sleeps as a serpent. Well, first of all, as soon as he gets to the farm, as soon as he gets on the boat, he meets his white pill. He finds the white pill, and yeah, he's pretty stoked on that. Well, actually, you can't really tell if he is or isn't. But then he's kind of under the under the radar, living and working as a slave at this farm for an unspecified amount of time before he finally realizes the time is right, and he is then taken away by the feminine nature because his white pill says, let's just go away. You don't have to think about this revenge. You should just forgive. Look at what this revenge and this focus on revenge has wrought you. And so she's just like telling him, you don't have to do this. They leave. He's like, you're right. They leave. And then he finds out she's pregnant. And then as soon as he realizes he has a progeny already, he's like, well, fuck this, dude. I already did it. And I got twins too. So we're good. And he just jumps off the boat, takes off, swims all the way back, and he's like, I'm killing this motherfucker. Goes, they have an epic battle. They have the Star Wars Episode 3 lava battle, and then they both die and fall into the lava at the end. After he kills his mom and his half-brother. Pretty funny. So yeah, is there anything I missed in that plot review, do you think? It's a very long movie.
I mean, I guess the only thing I would say that's somewhat important is he comes back to the incumbent as a slave and then slaughters the entire town as well, everyone that works for that guy as well.
Does he?
I feel like that's most of the movie, so I feel like maybe just mention that.
Right. Well, okay, yeah. So on the guy's farm, he has a certain amount of people in his what's the group called? What's somebody's group called? Entourage. He has a certain amount of people in his entourage who are, above the slaves, and this guy's determined to be a curse upon this man, so he starts killing them and putting them in all kinds of hilarious positions after they die. And then there's a bunch of implied use of drugs throughout the movie. That's a separate point. Yeah, what did you think about this movie, Adam? 1 to 10, give your quick, instant answer review.
I think I'd probably give it something that's maybe a little bit too nice, just because I am a sucker for the Viking man just killing everyone. So I'll probably give it an 8.
Adam with Viking movies is like Italians with mobster movies. You can't get enough.
Yeah, but because I think it's an 8, it's probably closer to a 7. But I thought it was very enjoyable. It was very fun to watch. The violence was very gratuitous, which is a big plus for me and my lizard brain. I thought it was pretty good. And that being said, I barely even watched the movie because halfway through I just went into a blind rage, only saw red, and woke up outside the theater missing my knife. But
is that true?
Overall, very enjoyable. Yeah, this movie sparked something, it did make me want to go to the gym afterwards. So after the movie ended, I don't know what time it ended, but I immediately just went to the gym and pumped iron.
I'm amazed by your ability to be inspired.
For me, it's anytime you get something that provokes a small amount of feeling inside of you, for me, that's I just got to capitalize that. Otherwise, I'm wasting it. It's not like when I say these things happen, it's not like that thing really provoked me to the point where I'm like, oh, I got to go pump iron. But it's it made me feel enough to the point where I was like, well, it wouldn't be bad for me to go to the gym right now. You know what I mean? You want to take initiative and capitalize on any amount of momentum that you get from whatever it is in life.
You don't have to defend yourself. I know you're a LARPer. I know you LARP hard.
Dude, when I was at the gym, I kept going, me Grug strong, and then I slammed the weights on the ground.
I wish you would have said something related to the Northman. That would have been funnier.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. What did you think? Did you overall enjoy the movie?
2.
What? 2?
Yeah.
That's not very good.
No further elaboration is going to come. End of review.
Okay.
Review ends.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I did like it. There was a couple of things, just from a production standpoint. Obviously, the accents weren't always consistent, but that's because nobody talks like that in real life. So it's mimicking an accent that nobody spoke for hundreds of years, if ever. So yeah, I don't blame them for being very bad at mimicking the accent, but when they start to speak quietly, like when the king speaks quietly in his Nordic accent at the beginning of the movie,
Mm.
it's like so jarring because it just sounds like a guy doing a voice. Which I get. I don't
Yeah.
blame him because nobody speaks that way. So you can't even like have a vocal coach tell you how people of that culture are people that try to speak because nobody does. And then there's like a couple other points. Like there's a point on the ship where he's facing away, and he's like looking at the tent of people, and then they clearly just like dubbed in a line of audio for him, and it just sounds like so poorly edited. I don't understand how those kinds of mistakes can happen in movies, because I'm like, this is like millions of dollars. Like somebody's only job is to make that line sound good, and yet it pulled me out of the whole movie because I could just clearly tell somebody added it in afterwards. Anyway.
Yeah, I noticed things like that too. Some of the CGI,
was definitely
just
lacking.
seemed like, the CGI seemed like a little wonky and not very good. I wasn't enjoying it as much as I thought I would, just based on the initial reaction of everyone else in the group.
That's how I felt, honestly.
Yeah, everyone hyped it up a lot. I thought it was. I mean, I just really enjoyed the violence, but the movie, like as a whole, like if this was not Vikings. And I didn't feel my my ancestral calling to it. I feel like I would have rated this movie a lot lower. You know, I feel it's just the enjoyable part is seeing Vikings kill people.
Right.
But if it was themed differently, I think, and had all the same motifs, I think I probably would not have given it the same rating.
Yeah, I want to talk about why I think people liked it so much. Is because. To me, the thing that I think people enjoyed about it a lot is that it displayed moral ambiguity from start to finish, which, like that's realistic, and I think that's something that you don't see in a lot of. I mean, you see it in like fake versions where like the anti-hero really has a noble motive, but all of it is like supposed to be self-explanatory to the viewer. But when you're watching this movie, like you don't really know. Like when I'm watching this guy. Slaughtering a bunch of innocent people and like raping them for just because he wants their stuff. You know, obviously it's kind of based, and I like it, and I want to do that with the boys. But you're also thinking, is that right? And then at the end of the movie, where the feminine,
the hero.
Sorry,
I was just gonna say the hero ignores like a lot of like atrocities that are happening because he doesn't actually care about like a higher moral law. He's just kind of working for himself throughout the entire thing. So when he sees like other bad things happen, he doesn't give a shit.
And I mean, it's implied that he takes part in like raping these women that they capture.
Yeah.
And it's like fucking, what are you gonna do? You're a Viking, man. And I like that's something that like nobody would make a video about Washington today. But even if they did, like if it was some right wing org making a George Washington movie, they wouldn't show him getting those slave teeth out, right? They wouldn't show him with the pliers, fucking, I mean, I don't think he did it himself, but they aren't willing to show the more gratuitous aspects because they have a message that they want to pitch already. But even in this movie, where you see he's doing all these horrible things, you still empathize with him the whole time because we understand that he's a product of his time, right? And then at the end of the movie, where like
and of his environment,
obviously
sees his father like murdered when he's very young.
Yeah, it's like,
and it's clear that it kind of kills like a very big part of his soul,
right?
Because throughout the rest of the movie, he just ceases to show compassion or like empathy to any real degree until he meets his flower.
Right, and it's like, who are you going to say that? Because a lot of these people who talk politics about old situations are like, well, they did this, they did that. It's like when you actually see the full movie, the full thing displayed to you, it's like, who are you to say you would have ended up a different person in that situation? Oh, I would have said, excuse me, that's not okay. What you just did, raping that woman in front of me, that's not okay. I'm standing up to you. Like, bro, you ain't gonna do that. You ain't that guy, all right? And then at the end of the movie where he says to his girl, he's like, damn, bitch, I want to kill this guy. And she's like, nah, bro, you gotta fucking forgive. look at how your life has turned out when all you wanted is revenge. And he's like, you're right. But then he goes back and kills him anyway. And the viewer is more satisfied to see him getting killed, even though we're like, well, she's probably right, on some deeper moral level, but we still have that drive for vengeance.
And that's your feminist side speaking, Lucas.
Maybe I am being a little feminine. I don't know, man.
Yeah. No, I thought, speaking of that, I actually looked up some reviews afterwards. I wanted to see what other people thought about the movie, like if other people enjoyed it and stuff. And one of them was just like, I was reading, maybe not a review, but when it's like someone whose like entire job is meant to like review these movies. What's that called? I guess like a
critic.
Yeah, critic. I was reading this critic, and I did just want to. I wrote down what he said because I thought it was interesting because he had the completely wrong take. So I kind of wanted to just talk about it.
Go.
But what he said was, it demands audiences deconstruct overbearing patriarchal values, toxic masculine heroism, and the folly of revenge by pulling viewers through extreme devotion to familial honor. And, I just want to talk about that because that was just completely the wrong take.
I think that's the right take. I've changed my mind.
No.
I've changed my mind.
Wait a sec.
I'm on the other side.
Really?
Yeah, I'm on his side. Yeah.
Okay, well then let's talk about it. So, okay, are you being unironic or are you being ironic?
I'm being unironic, like I'm on his side now.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so okay, fine. The first thing you said, right, this overbearing patriarchal values thing that he was saying, the only thing I saw in this movie was like the society with like strong beefy boys who ate like a lot of red meat was going around dominating and killing all of the egalitarian weaker towns where all the men were just watching porn and have clearly like been consuming like a shit ton of microplastics.
I didn't see that part,
so,
but I trust you.
Yeah, well that's the whole pillaging scene at the start, right after he becomes an old man. There's these weak egalitarian societies where they're putting you can bleep it. They're putting this stuff on a pedestal, if you know what I'm saying.
Pussy? You think I was gonna bleep pussy?
I don't know what you want in your pod, bro. You would bleep. I don't remember what you bleeped on the last pod, but from context, it sounded like you bleeped Fortnite at some point. So, wasn't sure what was being let fly here.
No saying Fortnite on the pod. That's a rule I've had since the start.
Now you're gonna have to bleep that again. But it's the patriarchal masculine society that completely destroys and kills the porn watching, microplastic consuming society, where it's implied that those people just look at Reddit all day long. So that's number one. That's the first thing. I don't know what you have to say to that.
Yeah, that's what I saw as well. Like that's.
Okay, perfect.
You're right. Like in the sense that that's the first time you see a person who's not in extremely good shape in the whole movie. Is the guy in that village that they attack first. You see a fat guy.
And they're all running, and the men are barely, like most of the men are not fighting back. A lot of the men are just turning tail and right. Trying to escape.
Only the specific
and it's fighting. Like, yeah, exactly. And it's like, seems like we need a little bit more masculine energy in this village if you're going to be able to fight off bad people.
Low key. No, that's true.
So that was the first thing. I don't know. Okay, so you agree with me on that one?
Yeah, you're pulling me back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to keep pulling you back. Second thing they talk about is toxic masculine heroism. That
was disgusting to me throughout the movie.
Yeah, and to me, the whole movie is about how violence solves everything. You know what I'm saying?
That's so true.
Because you have one man standing up against a large society, right? That guy's town, the king's town, and all of his entourage, as you were saying. You have one man standing up to that society that's oppressing people and telling their children that it's okay to be trans, which is implied, obviously, by how feminine Fjolnir's son is. You know what I mean? That guy looks like, compared to all the other men in the movie, even the young men who are like strong, that guy, the king's son is clearly going, through the Viking equivalent of becoming a girl. And so just one man, through sheer will and a gratuitous amount of violence, takes down the evil society and saves the oppressed. And so I think the message here is obviously directed towards us loners who are on the internet, who know what's right, and we have the means to stop it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I think that's my take on the toxic masculine heroism thing. It's like, nah, man, if you got an AR, you can do so much. Or just fertilizer. Maybe that's a little bit too much for the pod. But that's my take. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that is also just true in real life. No, I will say, when you hear somebody like this reviewing the movie and pulling out their ideas from the movie, and then you hear us reviewing the movie and pulling out our ideas from the movie.
The correct ideas.
It sounds a lot like it's just like this side and that side, and everybody's going to pull out their values or their ideas from the movie.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just implementing my standards and trying to bend the movie to make me agree with what I already think.
Yeah, and I like that. But on a more serious note, if you make an art piece that's good and reflects truth, then it will have, like, excuse my language here, but it will have based values in it. And like this person who made this review, if you ask them to back it up, they can't, guarantee. And when you actually examine any good piece of art, is reflecting truth. That's what good art does. So if you have something that is not true, like take toxic masculinity, which is just like not real, it can't be reflected by a piece of actually good art. So that's just kind of my way of differentiating between us and this retard.
True. I looked up a picture of the guy who made this thing because I wanted to see if it was a girl or a guy. But you can tell.
Don't even describe him yet. Is it a guy?
It is a guy. Unfortunately.
He has disgusting facial hair and receding hairline, and he's white.
He was not white, actually.
Whoa!
I don't know if I found the right picture, but he has the fluoride stare. He's got the, his teeth are stained with soy.
Does he have disgusting facial hair and receding hairline? Was I right on 2 out of 3?
I don't remember if he had decent facial hair.
God, Adam. You're supposed to affirm my beliefs. That's the only reason you're here. Now you're making me question my values.
That's the thing, is the wolf is in sheep's clothing, okay? Sure. Just because you see a man and he doesn't have a receding hairline doesn't mean he's not a cuck. The cucks are everywhere. They're hiding among us.
What was notable about his appearance? What are you going to say about it?
Fluoride stare. This guy drinks fluoride water for sure.
So just like something.
No, he actually looked pretty normal. So I was actually kind of disappointed because I also had my own ideas of what he would look like.
I think what happens is you get.
He was wearing a very fruity shirt, so you immediately know that this man is not masculine. Like he was wearing, like in his pictures, the kind of shirt that gay men wear. And I don't know if he's gay, but
what are you saying, man? Hey, but there might be a thing to this where it's like you get a gig job as an article writer for, say, BuzzFeed, IGN, or one of these movie Critic, Metacritic, IMDb, whatever. You get a gig job for them. They say, we give you $50 a blurb. And you're trying to get yourself to college, or through college. I'm just saying, maybe that's what some of these fucking guys are doing. Maybe that's why they actually look like normal humans when you actually look them up. It's because they're the wolf in sheep's clothing, not the... Or, no, wait. Would it be... I don't know.
It is the wolf in sheep's clothing, yeah.
I said it right.
Or in this case, it almost is the sheep in wool clothing, because you're talking about a really cucked, pathetic man who is masquerading as a normal adult.
I'm talking like somebody who's like...
We might be allowed to switch the metaphor.
Like a retard, so they make gig money from these terrible movies.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
True. Okay, so good. Now we can I think there's only like 3 or 4 more. Let me look at this quote again. He says the reviewer then says that there's like the Folly the way the reviewer, the critic says it, he says the Folly of Revenge, and I don't remember completely, but I'm pretty sure at some point in the movie, before he's on the boat leaving, he has a vision of like his like family tree like ending or something. I think there was like a family tree where like there was someone dead at the top or something, or it showed like him just being dead with nothing, right?
Yeah.
But then, you know, the female presence in his life, which is literally a witch, mind you, literally a witch, tells him to forget his anger and become a cuck.
Why is she? Wait, that's what why is she literally a witch?
Because she uses magic in the movie.
Is she?
Yeah.
That's actually something I was going to talk about. But
she calls herself like the Witch of the White Woods or something, and then the movie is trying to be ambiguous with if there's like any like actual magic or spirituality.
That was the main thing I was going to talk about actually with the concerns.
Which is cool because there's a part where he like fights like a zombie, like not a zombie, but like an undead guardian or whatever. But then after the fight, he like wakes up and he didn't actually fight anyone, but he did gain like the power to the sword or whatever. And then the sword is kind of implied to be magical as well, but it's not like super obvious. And there's a lot of these instances where it's like,
finish your rant, because that's like the biggest jar of worms that I wanted to open with the.
Yeah. There's like a lot of instances where
I'm saying finish your woman rant now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's confused. But anyway.
Go.
So anyway.
Woman rant.
So the witch tells him to forget his anger, become a cuckold. So instead, he takes a cold hard swim, and he awakens his lizard subconscious and clears his mind of all the succubus whisperings, and it's telling him to like move on instinct and kill to his last breath. And so at the end of the movie, you know, he goes and he kills the enemy, and he gets to die a hero's death, which is the best any man can wish for, you know. And then he has a vision of his children being safe and protected, and it's like, yeah, obviously he took initiative and killed the bad guy, regardless of what would end up happening to him, and because of his sacrifice, he made the future a better place, and he corrected the family tree, and he let his lineage keep going, because what he said in the movie was like the people are just going to hunt after them, and they're going to end up finding them and killing his kids anyway. And so the critic says, you know, Folly of Revenge, but in reality, the revenge pays off, and he manages to get everything that he wanted out of the situation, which is, you know, fulfilling his own desire for revenge and also protecting his future, which isn't like actually him, but your future lives on through your children.
Yeah, very true. It's so funny because like you kind of do think the movie's gonna have this more feminine truth ending when she pulls him away from it. You're like, oh damn, I guess it. And then in the end, he gets literally everything he ever wanted. Like, he gets revenge, he gets a hero's death, and he gets to make sure his children are safe through, like, a deific vision that is inspired through him.
Yeah, not only that, he kind of wins the fight, too, which is kind of nice. Like, you don't really think of him as winning the fight because they both die at the very end, but there's something very symbolic about him dying second, where he gets to see his victory, whereas the enemy, his head, like, gets chopped off and falls into the lava, and for the enemy, it's over. You know, he's done. He doesn't get to know what happens. He doesn't get to know he killed the other person. But for him,
that's so true. I didn't even think about that.
There's a deep satisfaction that comes from him killing the enemy by cutting off his head, but then him only getting stabbed in the chest, falling down, and getting that moment of contemplation and review, and getting to like actually get a grasp of the deeper meaning of everything that he's done in his life, everything leading up to that point, and also getting to like admire the fact that, you know, his children are going to grow up in a safe place, so I think that's pretty important too. It isn't really worth being skipped over.
That's heavy. I really didn't even.
I don't know if you want to do your rant. There was one last thing about familial honor that the critic said in this sentence. Maybe you want me to tackle that first.
Just like on this point you just made, I have this theory that is completely unfounded and related to nothing in reality. That all heroes have like. All the sentient people, all the non-NPCs, all the player characters basically have a moment of like a moment of clarity and like a moment of meditation before their death. That's what I think to, I don't know, maybe hope something out of this existence, but I feel like if you're really a player character, you get a moment of meditation before death. But anyway, go into your rant, and then we can do my rant.
Yeah.
You better not miss anything
I mean,
that I'm going to say in my rant. Don't say anything that I'm going to say in my rant.
I will stay away from it. The last thing that the reviewer wrote is that he thinks it's meant to be that this movie is meant to be like an attack on devotion to familial honor. That's the last 3 words of his thing. And it's like they show the family tree over and over again, and it's like through the hard work of his ancestors, and like everything that he's doing, that he's able to be where he is. Like it's because of, you know, what his father's lessons to him and everything. And like when it goes through the family tree, you know, you don't see weak men. They're all like kings. They're all like very powerful, very strong men that led him to be in this successful position, you know. And like in the movie, you find out that his father wasn't a perfect man, but it's then made like the father that was ended up being killed by the incumbent. But it's then like made very clear that the wife was actually a terrible person and like a serpent, and like his wife was a slave that his father had raised to the status of a queen. And you can complain about that all you want, but it's like you were saying, you got to think about, you know, the context of the movie. Like back in that day, nobody got to marry who they wanted, you know. And like life is completely brutal. Like being a queen is as good as you could hope for. Like under all rights, you know, of that time, you know, there's no reason for him to treat that woman any better. And she probably wasn't even being treated better to begin with, you know, wherever she ended up starting, you know what I mean? Like some poor town where the women didn't have rights in the first place. And so he elevates her to this status. And then, you know, she clearly doesn't appreciate any of that. And so, anyways, so he ends up staying devoted to his patriarchal lineage. He kills all the women and children, which is a beautiful metaphor for being black-pilled and saving children from toxic leftist parents. And it's all thanks to all these lessons that his father taught him growing up, which, you know, was to just go epic beast mode.
That actually said to him at one point in the movie, he said go beast mode.
Yeah, go epic beast, which is, you know, epic beast mode is the metaphor that they use when he's going through that wolf transition where he's pretending to be a wolf. That's a call out to going epic beast mode. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the end of what I had to say about this critic. But obviously, this critic had a completely wrong take, and hopefully, I've changed your mind, Lucas. But the obvious right take here is that violence,
I'm not,
and rage and being a man is more important than you know, compassion.
I'm on the side of you now. I think this critic, I don't think he had it all right. I think you had it right.
All right, your turn.
Yeah, well, my turn. I was just going to say about all the implied magic in the movie, because at so many points in the movie, like when he talks to the Oracle, it's like, okay, he could be talking to this Oracle, or this could be a dream. It's left ambiguous. Or when he goes and he gets the sword, he attacks a fake guy and has like a fake spiritual journey, but it's like to him that's real. Or when he speaks to the guy, what would you call that guy on the farm? The guy that has Willem Dafoe's head? I don't know what I would call that
guy. The shaman?
The shaman.
Wait, the guy... Yeah.
Like the old guy. It's like, you don't... Like, there's so much of it that's like implied magic, but it's like also this could just be really what's happening. And then there's like a lot of implied drug use with the shaman where and there's like a lot of implied drug use obviously in the ritual with his father at the beginning of the movie, where it's like they're probably drinking some form of hallucinogenic. And
I don't even think that's super implied. There's like I think they show like little mushrooms in it and stuff.
Right. Yeah, they show to preface his attack on the when he says, I'm gonna like curse this guy, right? He says, I'm gonna curse this guy who killed my father. The last thing that it shows before that is him holding up a mushroom, and then he makes so many of the members of that entourage go insane and kill themselves through the use of hallucinogenic drugs. But I will say, I like that because it's like real life where everybody has their own way of viewing the world, that only they can like see the world through that way. So when you talk about these old societies where people viewed this, it's like, how much of that is real, and what even is real? Because what's real is just what's experienced by that person. And so, yeah, you don't know if it's quote unquote real in the way that we'd say something is real today. But I was thinking the same thing with like miracles in Jesus' time, because I was when I used to have debates with my buddy Carl on miracles. I was like, yeah, well, why don't you see miracles like in the modern day? Like, why don't we see miracles in our society? And he's like, the interesting thing about that is in places like Brazil, in places like in Europe, and where they're more spiritually in tuned, people describe these kinds of insane miracles, and not just single people, like crowds of people describe like group healings by high religious figures and things like that. And it's just not something that we can't perceive that anymore in the West. Like, we can only perceive through a very materialistic lens in the West, which is why those miracles don't materialize for us, because we can't perceive them. And I thought that was such an interesting point, because it didn't really make sense to me until he said it, but I was like, yeah, that's a powerful thing to understand. I don't know if I'm putting this the right way. I feel like I'm fucking blundering this in the way I had it in my head. But you get what I'm saying, like, all cultures are different because people perceive things differently in those cultures. And there are miracles happening today, but we can only perceive them through the materialistic lens. And it's the same thing in this movie, where you don't really see what... You don't know what's real in the materialistic lens, but you know it's real in terms of his journey, in terms of his spiritual journey throughout the movie. And I thought that was just a great kind of very interesting way of broaching the subject. Because now in movies, you either get movies where you like know it's materialist from the start, or it's like superhero movies from the start, like it's like Powers, but you don't really get this kind of ambiguity that you get with this movie. And I thought that was very interesting.
True.
I'm trying to think about it. Yeah, just on the mom scene, like where his mom's like trying to seduce him and like tell him all these lies. It's like you're saying, bro, like she could have been grateful. Like instead of taking the grateful path, instead of saying, wow, your father elevated me to a king, or to a queen rather, she's like, well, it's just random. Like, it's just all random happenstance. Like, I could have been anybody else, and then by some fluke I turned out to be queen. It's like, yeah, be grateful for that, but she can't be, because she can't perceive the world in that way. And she's only grateful once somebody like gives her direct power to oppress the slaves and to do whatever she wants. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about the movie. I thought it was a good movie. I would say, yeah, like 7 or 8, definitely. I thought it was kind of cringe at the start, but then once you get into the theme of the movie, you kind of get into it.
Yeah, agree.
Did you have anything else you want to say about the movie?
It did make me think of something, because I saw Willem Dafoe in the movie, and like how in like Disney movies they always have like, all like the Disney movies, like, or is it Pixar maybe, they all like are meant to connect.
Right.
I think I'm starting to develop a theory that like all the Willem Dafoe movies kind of connect. Like it's the same person in all of the different Willem Dafoe movies.
Oh shit. Okay, I'm interested.
Yeah, because like...
Well, like from like the Northman.
From the Northman, yeah.
He's the shaman in the Northman. He's the early shaman of the Northman.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen The Lighthouse?
No, I've not seen The Lighthouse.
Oh. What about like Platoon?
No, is Willem Dafoe in that?
Yeah. Have you seen American Psycho?
I have, but it's been a really long time, and I honestly can't really... The only thing I remember is, like, Bateman killing people. I didn't actually... Who does Willem Dafoe play in American Psycho?
I can't remember.
I literally don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a little bit too
it's been
long.
too long. Have you seen it at Eternity's Gate? He's like, he plays like the, what's that painter's name? He plays
I've
Van
not
Gogh.
even heard. I've not even heard of that movie.
Oh. Have you seen Finding Nemo?
I have seen Finding Nemo. Now, I'm going to have to make an exception for my theory for Finding Nemo because that's like an animated movie, so obviously isn't going to fit into this like whole connecting things.
Right.
So obviously like that, you know, he's like the, is it Gil?
Yeah.
I can't really, you know, because he's not playing Willem Dafoe, he's playing Gil, which Gil's like, you know, a fish.
Right.
So it's kind of, can't really connect those,
Because he's a fish in that movie, and usually he's like a human.
Yeah. Have
you seen Aquaman?
So I've not seen Aquaman, no.
Oh. Have you seen John Wick?
Should I watch that?
I don't. It's not that good. Have you seen John Wick though?
The first one?
Yeah.
Like a long time. I don't remember any. Is he in that movie as who?
I think he's like John Wick's dad, I want to say.
I don't remember him in that movie at all.
Is there any other Willem Dafoe movie you've seen?
Not recently. I haven't seen a lot of Willem Dafoe movies.
Have you seen Spider-Man?
I've seen Spider-Man, bro, and in Spider-Man, he says something like, I think he's like Norman Osborn in that one, right?
Yes, yeah. Or the Green Goblin, as you might know him.
Yeah. He says something like, you know, like, sorry I'm late, work was murder, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's like, and it's kind of like a, you know, like, because he went out and killed people. I think that kind of connects there.
That, I do see that connection.
Because he's like it's like if I'm gonna make this like, you know, encompassing Willem Dafoe universe where they all connect, you know, then he's got to be like kind of this timeless being, which I think you can see that hinted in some movies that he's kind of like doesn't age, you know.
Right.
And so like in Spider-Man, it's like kind of that right there is sort of like a subtle nod to the fact that, you know, he's got that Viking blood, and, you know, sometime before that scene happens, he was probably off like killing people, you know what I mean?
Right. I like that. No, I mean, I haven't really thought about it before, but now that you mention that kind of connection, there's definitely a lot to it.
Yeah. I think it'll just get better the more, once I start watching some more like Willem Dafoe movies.
Yeah. I think it'll start to strengthen it. So yeah, that was the Northman review. Very good. Go watch it if you haven't. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Grant, that you weren't here to see it or to talk about this. We can have you come on and give some thoughts.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad now. This is ending on a sad note. I'm sorry,
we could
Grant.
talk about something else before we go.
You know what I do want? You were talking about making Alex Jones say stuff for us?
Yeah.
We should just, you know, have him, we should just write up a fake conversation and introduce him onto the pod, and then have him say, like, you know, great to be here on the Stone podcast on SRS, and you know, just pay him like $8,000. He obviously won't know what we're talking about, but we'll have a whole script, and then we'll kind of lead him through it. Yeah. And I think we could really grow some ratings if we had the entire pod with Alex Jones, where it just cuts back from us to him, and so we're like, yeah, it's like, how you been, Alex? Alex, it's good. That's $200 out the window. Yeah, it's been good, man. You know, I've been shitting, pissing, and coming and stuff. You know, it'd be hilarious because we would just have like whatever we want him to say, and
I think we need to
just kind
start
of
a GoFundMe for this.
Just kind of make it a whole mock thing. Yeah, make it a whole mock thing where we have to make it like subtle enough that nobody realizes that he is not listening to anything we're saying.
Yeah. I think that'd be funny. You know, I think
we're gonna have to do some math before we decide on the funny. How much is it for like 3 minutes?
I don't know if it's a time-based thing, but I feel like we.
Oh, perfect! $500, and we have him talk for 75 minutes.
Well, we could, even in 3 minutes, he could say like enough responses that we can keep going for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, because we don't need the white noise because we're cutting back and forth. So, he's just nonstop talking the whole time. We can get a lot of content out of that.
Exactly.
We can tell him to say it all really fast. Like, hey, can you wrap this out? And then give him the script. And then once we get the footage back, we just slow it down.
I really wish that he was cheaper, because I definitely, if he was $200, I would have already bought one and had him on the plot. But $500 is pretty steep. Yeah. I'm gonna check the shout out rates right now just to see if, I don't think it'll ever go down, but some part of
maybe if our guests that we have on the episodes relinquish their rewards that we promised them at the start of this episode, if they take all that money and instead give it back to us so that we can do this, then we could get the funding started.
I think so far
that.
Our podcast has probably made maybe over 6 cents. I don't know how much that would go towards it, but I think it would definitely be, every time I pay my rent, I pay it like 4 cents short. And over the course of a year, I'm going to be like 30 cents richer. And they don't even realize it. Like, they won't tell me anything. They won't like say, hey, you're short 4 cents here, right? That's a little monetary tip for you guys out there. Whenever you're paying rent, just pay like 4 or 5, 6 cents short every time. You're going to save money in the long term. Yeah.
Pay $499 and a bunch of change.
Well, if you're paying cash, it's harder, but I pay over Venmo, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because my rent is $461.25, so I usually just pay $461.21 or $461.20, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
They just don't mention it because they see that as like, petty change, but for us.
Yeah, and then I steal water from the laundry room, so I don't have to pay as much for utilities.
Yeah, I only drink toilet water. We don't even pay for water here, but I only drink out the toilet.
Yeah, the toilet water is free.
Toilet water is.
I have one toilet that I use. The other toilet, I cleaned it immaculately, and I have not used it since I moved in, and I use that exclusively for water.
Yeah, and peeing, but that's it.
No way. Well, yeah. I mean, piss isn't gonna contaminate anything.
Yeah, piss is sterile. We all know that.
Piss sterilizes things. We all know how jellyfish work.
We've all got a jellyfish sting when there's a goth girl around. Just like a last little point that I
see goth girls walking on the beach and run into the water.
Please, somebody pee on my leg right now, dude. Last little rant, because this one's been on my phone for like forever. I was just looking at my pod topics. But when I read that book by Chesterton, one of the things he said was, when I was growing up, everybody who was older than me told me, you're young and idealistic now, but wait till you get older. You'll learn that it's all about practical politics, right? Just relationships and just seeing how people get along and making deals, whatever you want to think about it. And he said, that's what people always told me growing up, but the older I get, the less I believe in practical politics and the more idealistic I become. And that's how I feel. And Adam, but you and me were just talking about this yesterday, about how like, what if this is what all these people felt when they were young? Like when our dad was young, he was thinking like us, but as you get more jaded and as life beats down on you over time, you kind of get disenchanted and you just give into things and kind of think more on a practical scale. But I don't think that's true. And the fact that Chesterton was like 40 when he wrote that book, and he was like, no, I'm more idealistic. I'm more radical now than I've ever been. Is very inspiring to me because that's how I've always felt. Because ever since I was a kid, people are like, oh, you're thinking too heavy about that. Like I remember people saying that to me even like 7th grade. Just like, you're thinking like on too deep a level about this, or you're kind of digging into this too much. But the older I get, just like the more radical I get. So I hope that trajectory just increases forever.
Yeah, I like that. That's a nice note to shine on.
Yeah.
Like to end the podcast. Don't worry, guys. We're not going anywhere.
I'm not getting less radical. I'm getting more and more dangerous.
We're slowly getting pushed. We're slowly getting pushed to the point. To the brink.
Yeah.
We're not going to back away.
I am the child who was what's it called? Like when they say like a child is a victim of the deep web in all these articles, like the dangers of the ideological right, whatever. Like that's me, and that I am the victim, and I'm just gonna keep being the victim of that. So don't you guys worry, because Space Ranger Stone will not let you down. I'm just getting more and more dangerous every day. I'm becoming more and more of a threat to federal agents every day. SpaceRangerStone@gmail.com. Feel free to email us. Anything, any tips about how to get out of an office chair are welcome.
Yeah, and if you do want to reply to my Dogs Have No Souls, I know I repeated myself for a while because Lucas left, but you are allowed to respond to that. We will be reading the emails on air, so feel free to address those concerns.
Yeah. So that's it. And just last little note about Willem Dafoe. Maybe someday he'll be Willem DeFriend. All right, goodbye. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, friends.